Hi, this is Leo Garcia from Six String Journal. In this video series, we're going to talk about Villa-Lobos Etude #1 and possible fingerings to play this etude. I wrote an article about this a little while ago on sixstringjournal.com, but I thought we'd go through some patterns and why they may be valuable to practice despite the fact that you have to pick one eventually if you're going to perform the piece. So I'm just going to go through them. I wrote down a couple notes here, so I'll be looking down every now and then. But the first one is simply the one that is written into the score, the Max Eschig edition of Heitor Villa-Lobos 12 etudes. The first one is P, I, P, I, P, M, I, A, M, A, I, M, P, I, P, I. Pretty straightforward. If you don't know the pattern and you're studying this etude, you have to really get that in. The advantage of that one, I think, comes from the fact that you can plant. You can actually put the A finger on string 1. You could even place the M finger on string 2, so that when you go to play the pattern, they're already in place. Then at around the third quarter note, plant A again, so that gives some stability to your right hand. The other advantage is that it sort of keeps thumb, index, middle, and ring, P, I, M, A, on these 4 strings. So you're basically in what I call, and many guitarists call, first position for the right hand. And the nice thing about that is that if you practice your arpeggios often and your technique is developed, that becomes a very good, stable default position for the right hand. So when we play the beginning of it, you're only extending out of it temporarily. And now I'm back into that default position. So that's one of the advantages too. So I find that, you know, I've played this for years and years, and when I sort of warm up on that, I feel like it's a pretty good option, probably one of the better options. However, I've seen many guitarists play it differently, and I'm going to go through some of those patterns, sort of eventually get to the one that I really like. That one's a very close second, I think. The disadvantage of that one, in my opinion, is that, to me, extending A away from index, and same with M, just doesn't feel that comfortable to my hand. I think other guitarists may find that it's perfectly okay. But what I do like to do is A, perhaps, but I don't like planting M. So A provides some stability. And to me, that feels okay. The other disadvantage is that there is a lot of thumb, index, and if that is broken up, that could be a beneficial thing. So that could be something to explore, and I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. The other disadvantage, and this is probably the biggest disadvantage, is that there is, within that pattern, when you get up here, you're going to play A, M, A before you resume I, M, B, I, B, I. Playing AM is okay for speed. plain MA is okay for speed sometimes. But going A, M, and then A has to be very, very developed, and which isn't a case against practicing it this way, but when you go to perform it, you want it to feel easy. And to me, doing A, M, A, or when you're going back and forth between these two fingers, it will never really be as fast as if you went between I and A or I and M. And I think this is probably true of most hands. Anatomically, it makes sense. So that is the big disadvantage that I find with this pattern. So in order to avoid that AMA, you can substitute a finger in. However, before we go there, there are a couple other patterns that I think are useful to practice. First one is simply to get a balance between the thumb, or how the thumb displaces the index and the middle and the ring when it moves. Just physically, because we use opposing motion, we have to be very delicate with the thumb so that it doesn't shift the hand down and displace the positioning of your index, middle, and A finger. So what we can do is we can practice just thumb and index, going through that pattern. That's one way to practice it. What's nice about that is that then, just as you listen to it, you'll discover that that's really the goal. Is you want everything to feel very balanced. You can also do the same thing with thumb and middle to get used to that. Of course, you'd practice these quite a bit. Maybe go through the entire etude using that fingering. The other one is thumb and ring finger. And that one is very useful for many things, but typically A is going to be the weaker finger, so we want to make sure that we use that. So far we have Segovias. We have a couple other patterns, each one thumb with index, thumb with middle, and thumb with ring finger.